The city buzzed with life, an endless hum of traffic, laughter, and distant music as Kwaku gazed out over the sea of lights from his small fifth-floor apartment. To an outsider, the space might have seemed modest, almost humble, but to Kwaku, it was more than just four walls. It was a milestone. He had grown up in a cramped two-room house on the outskirts of the city with his mother and three younger siblings. Days passed in a blur of school and work. Nights were spent studying in the dim light of a shared lamp. But after years of struggling, everything had changed in a single, exhilarating moment. Shekinso. Only last month, he had been hired as a junior project manager at Amani Technologies, a growing tech firm on the rise in the city. Landing a job at Amani felt like a dream come true, a dream not just for him, but for his family. His mother had wept tears of joy, hugging him as though she never wanted to let go. They'd celebrated with a family meal, one of the few times he'd seen everyone genuinely smiling together. Kwaku's mother had always taught him the value of hard work and resilience. Now he could see her pride as he handed her part of his first paycheck to help with the house repairs they'd put off for years. The rest he'd saved. And now here he was in a place of his own. The freedom felt strange, yet exhilarating. As he unpacked the last box of clothes, his phone buzzed with an incoming message. It was from Rehema, his favorite cousin. They had grown up like siblings, and she had been one of the few people who had stood by him through every hardship. Rehema's message was simple but warm. "Heard you got the new place. When can I come visit?" Kwaku smiled, immediately texting her back. "Anytime, just let me know." Within an hour, Rehema was there, looking as radiant as ever. She was married to Jacob, a man whose presence had always felt more intimidating than welcoming. Rehema had confided in Kwaku about some of the tensions in her marriage, but she'd never gone into details. Tonight, though, she seemed tense. After they had settled in and shared stories of old times, Kwaku noticed her quiet sadness. "You know you can talk to me, right?" he asked, leaning forward. Rehema looked away for a moment, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "It's Jacob. Things haven't been great. He's been difficult." She hesitated as if measuring her words. "He thinks I don't give him enough respect. He blames me for everything that goes wrong." Kwaku felt a surge of protectiveness. "Rehema, if he's making you feel unsafe—" No, it's nothing like that," she interrupted, though her voice wavered. "I just need some time away to clear my head. I don't want to go home tonight." Kwaku's heart softened. He couldn't imagine what it would be like to feel unsafe in one's own home. Without hesitation, he said, "Stay here as long as you need." That night, Rehema took the couch while Kwaku lay in bed staring at the ceiling. His mind drifted, thinking of how different his life was now compared to just a few short weeks ago. He'd fought so hard for this sense of stability, but something in Rehema's eyes had unsettled him. Family always came first, but what if helping her led to complications he wasn't prepared for? The morning came, and Rehema left early to get to work. They promised to keep in touch, and Kwaku assured her that his door was always open, but as he watched her walk away, a subtle unease remained. A few days later, Kwaku's life returned to its regular routine. The demands of his new job were challenging, but he was thriving. He was learning quickly, making connections, and for the first time, he felt he was truly part of something larger than himself. Karn. One evening, after a particularly long day, he received a text from his colleague, Amara. She had found a website link, the infamous gossip blog, and sent it with a single line, "Kwaku, you might want to check this out." Curious, Kwaku clicked the link only to feel his stomach drop. There, in clear, brutal detail, was a blog post speculating about him and Rehema, complete with photos of her entering and leaving his apartment. The post claimed they were having an affair, that Kwaku was responsible for wrecking a marriage. As he read, Kwaku's mind raced. How had anyone even seen them? His apartment was in a secluded part of town, and he had been careful to keep his private life just that, private. It felt surreal, like a nightmare he couldn't wake up from. The comments were a mixture of shock, mockery, and cruel accusations. Complete strangers dissected his life, debating whether he was a home wrecker or merely helping his cousin. The most disturbing part was the venom in their words. People seemed to relish the scandal without a second thought about the truth. His phone rang, jolting him back to reality. It was his mother. She didn't ask any questions, nor did she raise her voice, but he could hear the hurt and disappointment between her words. Kweku, is it true? Of course not, Ma. You know me better than that, he replied, barely keeping his voice steady. But the seed of doubt had already been planted. In the span of a few hours, Kweku's entire world began to crumble. The very people who had celebrated his success were now gossiping behind his back. Friends, family, and even his colleagues began to keep their distance. The city he'd once dreamed of conquering had turned on him overnight. As he sat alone in his apartment, Kweku felt an unfamiliar chill, a sense of isolation that went beyond the walls of his small space. For the first time, he questioned if his newfound life was as secure as he'd thought. And for the first time, he began to wonder if some battles were too costly to win. In the days following the gossip blog post, Kweku's life begins to spiral. Every time he walks into the office, he senses his colleagues' sidelong glances and hears their whispered conversations. Though Amara tries to reassure him that people will move on eventually, it's clear that some are eager to believe the worst. Meanwhile, Rahema tries to calm him down, insisting that people will eventually realize it's just a rumor. But Kweku can see she's also worried about her marriage. Her husband Jacob has become distant and angry, fueling the fire. Kweku offers her a place to stay if she needs it, but deep down he realizes how trapped they both are in this twisted narrative. Kweku becomes a target at work when he overhears two senior colleagues debating whether to report the drama to HR. One colleague, who's vying for the same project, questions his character, suggesting he's too reckless for a leadership role. Kweku tries to defend himself, but he realizes that defending one rumor only seems to feed another. Desperate to find the source of the story, he reaches out to his cousin's husband Jacob, hoping to clear things up, but Jacob shuts him down, accusing him of being a homewrecker. It's clear Jacob believes the gossip, and that his resentment may be fueling it. Kweku's family gets pulled into the rumors, and his phone won't stop buzzing with calls from relatives who've heard the gossip. His mother is furious, insisting he fix the situation and defend the family's reputation. When he tries to explain, she cuts him off, saying, "Kweku, we are not the kind of family to get involved in scandals. You fix this or don't bother coming home." Kweku's heart sinks. The support he once had from his family feels gone, replaced by shame and pressure. The rumors spread like wildfire on social media, with strangers adding exaggerated details. Posts mockingly tag him using his name as a trending hashtag. Old school friends he hasn't heard from in years start messaging, either defending or attacking him, feeding the controversy. Every attempt he makes to clarify only adds fuel to the fire. Strangers accuse him of lying, friends stop replying, and even his boss suggests he take some time off to sort out his personal issues. Kweku is officially suspended from work, a blow that leaves him stunned. The HR manager, who once praised him, now says they're reviewing his conduct. He feels betrayed by his company and realizes that he's essentially guilty until proven innocent. This is no longer just a misunderstanding. His entire career is at stake. But with no way to prove the truth, he feels as though he's losing everything he's worked for. Back at his apartment complex, his neighbors grow cold. One neighbor, once friendly, refuses to make eye contact, while another avoids him altogether. The community he once considered safe now feels hostile, and he starts to worry for his safety, locking his door at night and avoiding public spaces. Rahema confides that her husband is pushing for a divorce, threatening to take everything if she doesn't admit the affair. She feels trapped and ashamed, worried about her future. Kweku feels torn between anger and sympathy, realizing that Rahema is facing her own nightmare. He promises to help her, but he can feel the pressure mounting. This rumor is tearing apart everything he loves. At a loss, Kweku turns to Reddit, posting his side of the story anonymously. The post blows up overnight, with people from around the world weighing in. Many sympathize, but some are skeptical, dissecting every detail of his story. Although he hoped for clarity, he's left feeling even more exposed as strangers debate his personal life with callous detachment. The comments vary wildly. Some users tell him to cut Rahima off, while others advise taking legal action. A few suggest he's not giving the full story, insinuating that where there's smoke, there's fire. He realizes that clearing his name might be harder than he thought. People are invested in the drama. One evening, Kweku finds a threatening message slipped under his door. "Homewreckers don't belong here," it reads. He starts to feel trapped in his own home, but with nowhere to turn, he's left questioning if anyone truly believes him. Kweku's family has been reading the rumors, and his siblings are angry, accusing him of bringing shame upon them. His mother, once supportive, is now cold and dismissive. They insist he take responsibility, unable or unwilling to believe his innocence. The division in his family leaves Kweku devastated. The people he counted on most have turned against him. Desperate to clear his name, Kweku decides to hire a private investigator. Though he can barely afford the fees, he knows it's his only chance to prove the truth. The investigator, a skeptical but resourceful woman named Bisi, begins to dig into the rumors, hoping to find the original source. Bisi discovers that the rumors may be connected to a past incident involving Kweku's ex-girlfriend Aisha, who had a history of jealousy. Bisi suspects that someone might be using Aisha's resentment as a tool to spread the story further. Kweku realizes that the scandal may be deeper and more calculated than he ever imagined. Kweku decides to confront Aisha, but she denies everything, accusing him of bringing drama into her life. Her denial is convincing enough that Kweku begins to doubt whether she's involved at all. This leaves him back at square one with no clear answers and mounting frustration. Bisi discovers something shocking. Rehama's husband, Jacob, has a history of infidelity himself. It appears Jacob might have created the rumor to deflect from his own indiscretions. Furious, Kweku confronts Jacob, but Jacob only laughs, saying, "Who would believe you over me?" Kweku's Reddit post attracts the attention of a group of internet sleuths who offer to help him investigate. They begin piecing together social media clues, tracking accounts that were involved in spreading the rumors, and even finding connections to Jacob's online activities. One of Kweku's old friends from university, Malik, reaches out after reading the Reddit post. Malik offers his support and even suggests a potential job if things fall apart at Amani. Kweku is grateful, though he realizes this might be the beginning of a new life altogether. With help from Reddit and Malik's tech skills, Kweku's supporters manage to gather damning evidence linking Jacob to a fake account that started the rumors. They find messages Jacob sent under this alias, boasting about how easy it was to ruin Kweku's reputation. Armed with evidence, Kweku considers suing Jacob for defamation. However, Jacob strikes first, filing a lawsuit against Kweku, claiming defamation and damages to his own reputation. The tables have turned, and Kweku is now not just a victim but a defendant. The upcoming trial will decide everything, with Kweku's entire future hanging in the balance. Kweku is overwhelmed by the news of Jacob's lawsuit. His mind races as he considers the consequences, legal fees, his family's reaction, and the potential for his life to be torn apart in a courtroom. But Malik and the Reddit community stand by him, helping him organize evidence. They gather screenshots, testimony, and anything that might prove Jacob's defamation and malicious intent. The thought of facing Jacob in court is daunting, but Kweku knows it's his only chance to get justice. He hires a lawyer, Mrs. Adama, known for her resilience and skill in high-stakes cases, to represent him. Adoma warns him that Jacob will likely use every resource he has to ruin him, but Kweku feels ready to fight. On the first day of the trial, the courtroom is tense. Journalists hover outside, eager to broadcast the scandalous details to a city that's been following Kweku's downfall. Inside, Jacob's legal team presents him as a wronged husband, painting Kweku as a deceitful homewrecker who ruined a marriage. Kweku feels his nerves shake as Jacob's lawyer attacks his character. But Adoma remains steady, calmly dismantling Jacob's narrative with their evidence. Witnesses begin to testify, and the courtroom drama reaches new heights, with each side struggling to paint the other as the villain. Adoma unveils the evidence gathered by Kweku's online supporters, including the fake accounts Jacob used to spread rumors. Screenshots of messages, timestamps, and metadata reveal Jacob's orchestrated plot. Jacob's calm facade begins to crumble as he tries to explain away the evidence, claiming it's all been twisted. But when BC takes the stand presenting her investigation into Jacob's activities, the courtroom becomes electric with tension. The judge demands an explanation from Jacob, who struggles to maintain his composure under the weight of evidence. The court allows Rehema to testify. Her presence is both a relief and a risk for Kweku. If she chooses, she could protect Jacob, denying his involvement and siding against Kweku. However, to everyone's surprise, Rehema chooses to tell the truth. She describes her husband's manipulative behavior, confessing that she felt pressured to support his false story and stay in the marriage to avoid scandal. Her testimony shocks the courtroom, and Jacob's expression darkens with anger. As Rehema finishes her testimony, Kweku's family watches from the back, visibly shaken by the truth finally revealed. He can see his mother's regret, realizing how her doubt hurt him. The trial takes a clear turn in Kweku's favor, with public opinion slowly beginning to sway as people see him as the victim rather than the villain. For the first time, Kweku feels hopeful that he might reclaim his life and clear his name. Jacob's legal team tries one last strategy, claiming Kweku's story was fabricated to ruin Jacob's career and marriage. They argue that the fake accounts could have been created by anyone, even Kweku. But Adoma and Malik counter with IP logs tracing the accounts to Jacob's devices, dismantling their defense with cold, hard facts. The courtroom is silent as the weight of Jacob's deception becomes clear to everyone. After days of tense waiting, the judge finally delivers the verdict. Jacob is found guilty of defamation and ordered to pay damages for the harm he caused Kweku. The court acknowledges the psychological toll and professional setbacks Kweku suffered due to the malicious rumor. The verdict feels surreal to Kweku. He's won, but he's still reeling from the journey it took to get here. Outside, the city's reporters swarm him, desperate for a statement, but Kweku only gives a brief message: "I just want to put this behind me." In the days following the trial, the scandalous gossip blog retracts its story, issuing a public apology and offering Kweku compensation. Social media shifts as people realize the cost of blind judgment. Kweku receives messages from former friends and family expressing their regret for doubting him. His reputation begins to heal, and he takes solace in knowing the truth is finally out. Malik helps him set up a charity fund from part of the damages he won, focusing on online accountability and privacy, hoping to protect others from similar situations. Rehema finds the courage to file for divorce, ending her toxic marriage. She publicly shares her own story, apologizing to Kweku and using her experience to advocate for others in abusive relationships. Though the wounds between her and Kweku will take time to heal, they both recognize the importance of supporting each other moving forward. Rehema's journey becomes a source of inspiration, and she dedicates herself to rebuilding her life just as Kweku begins to rebuild his. Months later, Kweku sits in his apartment reflecting on everything he's been through. The city's view seems softer now, as if the bright lights and loud streets no longer carry the same weight. He's stronger, more grounded, and more certain of himself. Kweku writes a post on his blog describing the ordeal, the support he found from unlikely sources, and the way it changed him. He speaks of resilience, forgiveness, and the dangers of judgment. The post goes viral, sparking conversations across social media about online accountability, family, and the price of loyalty. Finally, Kweku decides to move to a new city, ready for a fresh start. He leaves behind the apartment and the painful memories, carrying with him only the lessons he's learned and the relationships he's rebuilt. The road ahead is uncertain, but Kweku walks it with strength, knowing he has finally reclaimed his life. As he takes one last look back at the city skyline, he whispers, "Thank you for the lessons."